And good morning, everyone. Hope you're enjoying this wonderful Wednesday morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. And thank you for joining me for today's Tech Talk. Today, we're going to be doing a very interesting Tech Talk. We're going to be talking about FastAPI. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, hi from Austria. Well, welcome. Hello, Get Profit. It's nice to see you. I studied abroad in Austria for a summer. I was in Vienna, and I loved it. It was awesome. Can't wait to hopefully one day get to go back. How's everyone doing this morning? I'll wait a couple of seconds for people to jump in as we get started. Yeah, good morning. It's still kind of early. Wait, it's 10 a.m. for me. It's not really early, but I get the yawns. These lights that I use for my room also tire my eyes really quickly, so I have to turn them off soon. Okay, I see my moderator cheering in the screen, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, but okay. So, hello. Hi from Canada, from Silicon Valley. I've been up since 4 a.m. Go to bed. This will be recorded. I appreciate you being here, but get some sleep. You can, if you want to stay. But if I was up from 4 a.m., I wouldn't be here right now. It'd be like, nope. I'd be calling like, oh yeah, that TikTok, it's not going to happen today. Hi from the Netherlands, Nigeria, Canada, lots of great people. Cape Town, South Africa. Awesome. We're getting people. Okay, so we have almost all of the continents represented. We're getting a lot of the continents coming in. Whenever someone says they're coming in from Antarctica, then I know we'll have permeated. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I don't want to ramble for too long. It's good to see everyone. I'm awake, moderator. I'm waking up. These are. It takes me a little bit of time. So today we're talking about FastAPI. So FastAPI is something that as someone who's built and worked in someone's coming in from Antarctica, so yeah, good for you. As someone who's built Python applications for most of his career, I started, my first job out of college is building Flask apps and Python libraries for systems management and stuff. I've been pretty familiar with the frameworks that I've presented so far. So if you haven't seen my previous tech talks for the last handful of week, however long I've been doing this now, I did Flask, I did Django REST framework. You can find all of these on our YouTube site. But today I'm actually going to be diving into one that I have very little experience with. I've never actually written an app that I've used in prod in this. This is a relatively new framework. I have been playing with it now, and if you follow me on Twitter, at Mason Egger, you'll have found out this is very quickly becoming my favorite framework for a variety of reasons, which I will go over today. So FastAPI is basically a high performance, easy to learn, fast to code, ready for production. So imagine it kind of focuses on the same stuff that Flask does on just ease of use. But the thing that really makes it stand out is that it's fast. And for anyone who knows anything about Python APIs, one of the biggest complaints about Python and the Python ecosystem is that people claim the Python ecosystem is slow. It depends on slow from which perspective you're looking at. Is it slow compared to C? Yes, because C is a statically typed compiled language. Is it slow in a way that if you were building a small to medium-sized business and you decided to use Django, your users would ever see? Probably not. So slow is relative. People who make the Python is slow comment haven't used Python since Python 2.6 about 15 years ago. Python is still relatively fast, but it's not fast as a compiled language or Node.js. However, FastAPI adds this. It gives us this functionality, this ability now, which is actually really, really cool. So the way that it does this essentially is by using one, asynchronous IO. So this is a completely async framework. So whereas we're typically, whenever we use Flask or Django, the WSGI or the WSGI is that was how you deploy Python apps for a long time. Deploying FastAPI is different because it's an ASGI or an asynchronous gateway interface. I think that's what it stands for. So it's different there, but it also really takes takes advantage of the type hints. So this is, if you haven't been paying attention with Python and like you haven't really like started diving in deeper in some of the newer features, type hinting is a thing now where basically you can create these hints where you can tell Python that, hey, like this is like these are typed, like this parameter coming in is going to be an integer. And like the current C Python doesn't do anything, but there are tools that allow you to run tests on it and stuff where it tests to make sure that, hey, these are actually the values that are coming in. So by adding a little bit of typing, FastAPI is able to get these amazing performances. So it's built on top of 2 frameworks, one of which is called Starlet, which is basically a lightweight ASGI framework built for, using highly available async IO services, WebSocket, GraphQL support, lots of interesting things there. And then it's also built on another service called Pydantic. And Pydantic is basically data validation. So the data validation in Pydantic is the tool that you would use to make sure that your type hints are actually being used. So if you were to just put type hints into Python code, it doesn't actually, like the language doesn't really do anything with it yet. C Python, to my if I recall correctly, doesn't actually use them. You have to use a tool like this to actually make sure that you have type hints. So you create like this class where it's like user base model, ID int, and then you use it, something like that. So this is actually, in my mind, very reminiscent of like Java, where you would create a class and then create objects of the class, and they had like statically typed. And again, what makes, I keep clicking the wrong button over here when I try to get my stuff. So what makes it really valuable, FastAPI really valuable, is its benchmarks. So the benchmarks are, I was hoping they were going to tell me more about it. Okay. This apparently, that's a news site. That doesn't show me anything that I wanted to see. Anyway, it is quick. It is fast. I wish that by checking the benchmarks and comparisons, we show the following line. Yeah, ASGI server, Starlet, and all of that. So it's built on top of it. It has really fast. It's basically just really fast. And like, unfortunately, I'm not the greatest when it comes to like benchmarking things. Like I've never really actually benchmarked web applications before in speed performance, especially in Python, because you just know that they're sad. But now we have some really good benchmarks. So, and I will try to find some and include them in the links, but I thought that was going to take me something else, but it didn't. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started with FastAPI. Let me show you why it's very quickly becoming a favorite of mine. So, as always, if you've watched any of my talks, we start off with a virtual environment. And actually, before I start, I'm going to make sure I don't have my other. I do have a FastAPI one already there that I was using for testing. So let's go ahead and start. Python -m vn /.virtual environments, virtual ends. We're just going to call it FastAPI. Now we have our virtual environment. Remember, we create a virtual environment so that way we have isolation between our packages. We don't want to be mixing packages from all different projects. We don't want to be mixing packages in with our system Python. We create a virtual environment for every new application so that way we have a fresh slate every time. We don't have to worry about lingering things. Okay, so now let's just go ahead and install FastAPI. Now, one of the other things that we need when we install FastAPI is a tool called Unicorn, which is basically an ASGI framework that is used to run it. Kind of like GUnicorn you would use to run a WSGI. Unicorn is apparently the ASGI version of that. I don't know why my brain's based on that. So we need to install Unicorn, and then we'll install Black and we'll install Pilot, because we always have these extra, like these things for that way my environment works. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and activate, let's put this in the right place. So /dot, we'll just enter the interpreter path, and we'll go back here, .virtual env, FastAPI bin, Python, well, Python just links to that. So now we're in there, so we don't have to worry about like the static analysis. So let's build a hello world really quick, and let's talk about that. So for our hello world, the first thing we need to do is from FastAPI import FastAPI, kind of like from Flask import Flask. So already Out of the gate, it's looking pretty the same. We need to create a Flask API app. So we basically create one like we normally would do. Now we need another import statement here. I'm going to do that so you can see the code. We need another import statement here. And this is one that actually comes from Python. And it's called from typing import optional. So typing is a Python library that is it's in the standard library. However, I will say that if you are going to do anything with FastAPI, I think the requirements is you have Python 3.6 or higher. So this in no way works in Python 2. And if you haven't upgraded your operating system or your system or any of the Python that you're using in a while, you're going to need a more modern version of Python. I appear to be using 3.85. I should probably update to 3.92 eventually. 3.92 is the latest, stable. But 3.85 works, 3.7 works. I think a lot of the 3.6 works. So, but just know that if you run into problems, you might be running Python 2. So check your version, because it will not work with that. The advent of all the ASGI stuff really does kind of lend itself to Python 3. So we have our FastAPI. So let's go ahead and create our hello world. Hello world. And let's just return hello world as a string. And then app dot, and this is where it's different. So if we were doing Flask, we would do app.route/. FastAPI takes a different method that I actually really like. It's app.get. So you actually you actually would end up using the HTTP functions, commands. So what are they called? I guess we call them functions. HTTP. So get, post, put, delete, update. You would that's what So you would use those here. Instead of doing a .route and then specifying them, you would actually specify what the HTTP function that you use that you want to do. So I have a question here from the chat. Just wondering, how should I get FastAPI installed? I'm running Ubuntu 20.04. So create the virtual environment like I did, and then use pip. You would install pip. I know that Ubuntu and other Linux distros tend to want to try to package some Python things as system level packages. These are usually very much out of date, and I would not do that. Verb, HTTP verb. That word was completely just out of my brain today. I don't know why. So the HTTP verb that you would do here. So this is a hello world. Let's go ahead and run it now. So we run this by running uvicorn main : app, and then -- reload, so it always reloads. I named it app. So if you don't call it the same thing, then okay. So we did that, and we are running on localhost 8000, not 8080. And if we come here, it says, "Hey, hello world." Text. Now, where this really started to sell me was when I was playing with this yesterday. So if you're used to Flask, you're used to seeing JSONify and all of that. However, if I just return a dictionary in Python, from it, I automatically over here get JSON. Let's Control+ into this so you can see it. So I automatically get JSON. And that was ooh, that is nice. So I like that. Let's do another method real quick. Let's do one more method in our hello world before we actually get on to building an app. We're going to build a whole app today. Let's say def, we're going to say read item. We have nothing to read yet, so it's fine, but we're going to say item ID is an int. So this is where the type hinting comes in. We're going to say we're going to bring in an item ID, and it's going to be an integer. So that's good because if as things come in, they're always as strings, but this is actually going to do all the data validation for us. And conversions saves us time, saves us code. And then Q for query, we're going to say optional. So if we want to have it, we can, but if we don't have it, it's fine. Optional string equals none. So this right here allows us to have a query parameter, have another parameter that is optional with none. Now, it makes more sense if we do an app.get /items, and then we'll say /item ID. So the item ID comes in as a just typical parameter, and the Q, since we have it in here and we don't have it specified here, will come in as a query parameter. So we'll say return item ID. Put this in quotes. Item ID Q for Q, if there's anything. So we save that. Option. It's optional, right? Optional. Yes. So now if we go over here and we say /items/3, we get item ID is 3 and we had no query parameters, so it comes back as null. But if I do item 3 question mark Q equals hello, now we automatically get it in as query parameters. So as you can see here, we don't have to mess around with the request object at all. The data just comes in. Another reason that I was like, really like, oh, that's so nice. It makes my life so easy that I don't have to go and like get the data out of the request, validate it, and all of that. Like I can just get it in here from FastAPI, and it automatically does a lot of this for me. So someone's asking, so is that a content type application JSON or is it just pretty printed? It's a content type. So this is a plugin that I have, but let's actually do an HTTP call on it. So for those of you that haven't seen my talk before, curl is dead, long live curl. Curl is fine, it's great, but I don't use curl at all anymore. I use this. There's a little piece of tech that I use called HTTP IE. It's a Python-based command line tool, and it just makes doing HTTP commands so much easier. Like I just do HTTP, like this right here is a hello world. Like if I want to do a put, I just put it, and then I just key value pairs through. I don't have to remember all the curl flags and all of that. So it's called HTTP IE, and once you've installed it, it's just HTTP localhost 8000. So at just hello world, you can see we get application JSON hello world. If we do it with items 3 question mark Q equals hello. Did I do that wrong? Oh, I don't have to do localhost here. HTTP : /. Well, what are you complaining about? Okay, something about maybe it's the / question mark. Normally it autofills that in. Q equals, there it goes. I don't know why it wasn't. There we go. So yes, this is application JSON. So I don't have to like do like a JSONify. If I return a dictionary, then I automatically get JSON, and I love that. Makes my life so nice. Now, the thing that really got me, and I'm gonna go full screen for this, because I really liked it, and because if you've ever like I do a lot of talks on like Python and stuff, but I do a lot of talks on docs and like why documentation is important. FastAPI automatically comes with Swagger installed. Like I automatically get this. I've done nothing. You've seen how much work I've done. I've done nothing, and I get this, and I love it. So like I automatically get REST API documentation in Swagger, or if I don't want Swagger, I can also just choose redoc if I want. This is installed by default, and now you get all the docs that you want. And this is great. Honestly, this right here won me because the amount of time that I spent fighting auto Swagger with Django until I finally found DRF Spectacular, it was a lot. Like it just took me a bit to figure out how to make it work. The fact that it automatically comes in and it automatically knows the parameters, it automatically does the like responses for me, all this, it's wonderful. All web frameworks, in my mind, should have this feature. This is a required feature to be a web framework in 2021. Mason said it. So, anywho, that's like my favorite thing, and like I might talk about that for the rest of the time. You'll see. But today, anyway, we're not going to just stick with the hello world. We're actually going to build a cool little app. And I'm going to show you how easy it is just to build like a little CRUD app. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a one-time secret app. So if you've never seen a one-time secret app, one-time secret is like a great way to send people passwords and stuff. So if I say this is the secret and the passphrase is Loki, that's the name of my dog, and we'll say it's got a lifetime of 1 day. So it basically creates a secret link. So you would send this to someone, and then I don't know why I can't copy it. There it is. And they would have to put in the passphrase, and they can see the message. And now this message is deleted. It's gone. It goes away, never to be viewed again. This is really good for sending people passwords and such. Now, we're obviously not going to be able to build a whole web UI for this today. We're going to build an API that does this. We're going to build a REST API that allows you to post and get secrets. So how we're going to do that is first we have to actually talk a little bit about the schema and how we're going to do it. So basically what we need to do is we need to create an application that we can give it a passphrase and a secret, and it keeps it. Now, the thing is how do you keep everyone from having the same passphrase? And the hint to if I use the passphrase Loki and someone else uses it, now we have like duplicates, and that could be bad. So that's where if you look back at that other one-time secret app, it creates its own special link, which is what we're going to create a special UUID. So for every secret, we're going to create our own custom UUID, which is basically just going to be a randomly generated UUID. So whenever you want to retrieve the secret, you need both the UUID, which would basically end up being this link. It would just be /secret/UUID, and you would need the passphrase. What we're going to do is we're going to store this data in a Redis database, because Redis has something called setExpire, which is really awesome. In Redis, you can set key values for a certain amount of time. So we're actually going to do that, so that way whenever we set, I want the secret to expire in 30 seconds. If it does, Redis will delete it on its own. And then we're going to mostly focus on the REST API stuff. I'm going to really quickly, I need to do this over here. Flask API intro. I'm gonna have some code that I'm just gonna copy and paste in, because we don't really have the time to talk about it in depth, unfortunately. So this is going to be called crypto utils, and I will put this code on GitHub. Like whatever we do today, I will upload to GitHub, and we will share. I might do that at the end. We'll share it at the end, and then we'll make sure we include it in the tech talk. What we're going to do is I need some utilities for this, and instead of like talking about how I create the crypto to do it, we're just going to do it. We'll go through it real quick though, just to make to understand. So we're going to use the cryptography library, which is basically the strong Python library for doing cryptography stuff. We're going to use base64 OS hashlib. I don't even know if I use hashlib somewhere. And UID, and we're going to use Fairnet, which basically allows us to create an encryption system based off of a passphrase. Now, the thing is that normally that passphrase is set beforehand, and like changing it in the middle, changing it for everyone is a little bit tough. So what we had to do with this was like we actually have to do like a whole bunch of we have to set the PBKDF to HMAC, and then like set the algorithm, do a basic stuff, and basically set the key and all of that. I found this from a tutorial. I understand most of it. But yeah, so we're going to have an encrypt method that takes a passphrase in plain text, and it's going to give us back ciphertext. And then we're going to have a decrypt method that takes the passphrase and ciphertext, and it's going to give us back plain text. We're going to have a method that gets the SHA of any text that we send, and we're going to have a method that randomly generates us a UUID. So from the crypto side, that's what we're going to be doing with that. And I want to save that because that's valuable to me. For my thing over here, we do need to install cryptography. And it looks like it was installed relatively quickly. And yeah, now I think we're ready to build a FastAPI app for a one-time secret. So we're going to go ahead and just delete this because we don't really need it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give ourselves access to our Redis cluster. So let's import Redis. We're going to import OS because we're going to need it here in a second. Yeah, we're going to just use it. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically create a Redis connection. So redis.redis. We're going to say host equals os.get env db host localhost, comma. We're going to say port equals os.get env. So this is allowing us to, if we wanted to host this somewhere, which I'm going to post this up so you could totally deploy this on that platform afterwards. 6379, that we could read all this data from the environment and get the environment variables, or we can just use our local host one for local testing. Password equals os.get env, db password, comma none. And then SSL equals os.get env, Redis SSL, comma true, equal true. Okay, so James asks, do we need to roll our own crypto? Are there out-of-the-box solutions for common auth scenarios? There are, but the way that I wanted to do this, where it's a different password, is I kind of had to roll my own. So it's not even really rolling my own. I'm still using the exact same crypto that is provided. So if we look at Fairnet, like I'm still using the Fairnet crypto schema, whatever that is. Like I'm not changing that. What I'm changing is the ability for me to be able to basically supply my own key. I believe whenever you use Fairnet, like you create it and it gives you a key, and like being able to have it actually create a key was kind of tough. So what I had to do is I have to do a URL safe encode, and then I have to derive a key from a password because I want the password to be the thing that unlocks it. So whenever I wrote this code, all I'm doing is basically instead of letting Fairnet give me the key, and saving it somewhere, I am generating my own key, and then basically this is all to put it back into the format that Fairnet accepts. So I'm not rolling my own crypto. I'm not like doing my own Caesar cipher or anything. I'm still using a strong, widely accepted crypto algorithm, but what I'm doing is instead of letting it give me a key, I'm saying, let me give you the key. And this was the work I had to do to actually create that key. So all of this work, from the salt all the way down to the key, is just me generating the key in a format that Fairnet will accept. That's all it was. I did not roll your own crypto. Rolling your own crypto is very often a bad idea. Almost always often a bad idea because we're not cryptographers. So yeah, I would never recommend anybody roll their own crypto, but because this was the quickest and easiest thing I could find I want to be able to give it my own key without having to use like OpenSSL. I could totally have used OpenSSL for that, and that would have been fine. But I wanted to find like something that was native to the Python crypto library. Fairnet works really well for that. So yes, don't roll your own crypto. If you didn't care about having like the key, you specifying the key, then you would have even needed this. You would have just used this library. But since I wanted the key, I have to basically create my own key and then send it. So in my mind, in theory, and the way that I'm thinking about it is this should still be equally as secure. I mean, minus the fact that the key could be weak, but like someone would have to guess the key. So it's just as vulnerable as like if you were doing your own. So yes, great question. I never recommend rolling your own crypto. Most of the time you'll get it wrong. Oh, I haven't installed Redis yet. Pip install Redis. Okay. Are you going to come over here and stop giving me the squiggly line? It gave me. Okay, so now we have our Redis connection. Okay, we're doing good on time too. So let's go ahead and create a secret. So we're going to use the Pydantic model, and we're going to create our secret. So secret. And what we need to install we need to bring in one more, maybe one or two more libraries. So before we do that, we have to bring in from Pydantic import base model. So if you've ever used Django and you're used to seeing like models and stuff, they have their own built-in like methods behind the scenes that you can modify, but basically we're not going to need to do that. We just need the model for it, so that way it'll work with our API. So you're going to create a class, and we're going to say the message is of type string. The passphrase is of type string. And then we're going to use that optional that we had earlier, where we optionally took in a query parameter. We're going to create one here. We're going to say expire seconds, because it makes my life easier just to do it in sections. Seconds, not sections. Optional int, so it's an optional int. And if they don't specify anything, it's going to expire in an hour, 3,600 seconds. So this is our secret. This is the model for our secret. So now let's actually create a secret now. Def create secret colon secret. So by doing this is the cool part. And we're going to make this a post. App.post secrets. Let's scroll down a little bit so you can see this a little better. So by doing this, and one, let's spell secret correctly for it to work. And now, yeah. So by doing this, what this will do is it says, hey, take this secret object and put it into this secret value. So if you work with Django REST framework and stuff, you usually have to read in, validate the data, make sure the data is there that you want and all that. If you're doing Django REST framework, you have to create like a serializer and then specify which fields you want to come in, which fields are optional. This does all of that right there. So if I send the right required data, it will go in. If I send excess data, I believe it just ignores it. We'll try it. If I don't send in the right data, it says, hey, you didn't send it in. But all of that, now we automatically have an auto serializer that does all of this for us. So let's go ahead and say ID equals cryptoutils.get UUID. Oh, I didn't import that. So let's go ahead and import cryptoutils. And we need to import a couple more things just to get it done. Oh, did I not install Pydantic? Oh, no. This one, for some reason, Pilot just doesn't recognize it. So if you ever have a pilot, so like this is a valid error. This is a valid line. There is a base model in Pydantic, but for some reason, Pilot doesn't see it. According to Google, it's just the way that Pydantic is set up that like it's there, it works, but the way Pilot searches for things doesn't work. If you ever want to one-off disable something from this, you basically do a comment and you say Pilot : and then you can inline disable a comment for a single line. So we're going to disable the no name in module. I guess what's it called? Like the warning. And now it goes away. So Pilot will not render that anymore, and it's not going to bug me anymore, which is great because it is there. I know it's there. I know it works. But like if I was running this through like a static analyzer, like part of a CI/CD platform, this would still break because it is technically a warning, even though it's a false positive. So if you ever need to disable something, you can always just inline disable it with Pilot is a comment, and it goes away. So we have that, and I need to import. We're just going to go here. HTTP exception. We're going to need to throw a couple of exceptions later. Last one that we need, because we're going to be dealing with expiration times, we're going to go ahead and import time delta to save us the have all that, and that's all the imports I need. So back here. So we get the ID. So this is the UUID. So like when we were looking at our one-time secret, this is the like URL. We could use this UUID for the URL. There's nothing wrong with like this can be completely publicly available. This is just so it gives us some sort of like guidance, so that way some people could use the same password. Because if you're using this at a wide scale, it's very likely that people are going to pick the same password. Password is the most 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the most common password. It will probably become a password, be used more than once. We're going to go ahead and get the SHA of our password, and this is going to become useful because this is how we're going to check to see if the passwords are equivalent. So for those of you that aren't familiar with cryptography and SHAs, a SHA is essentially a hash function that happens on a password or something, or any sort of data that's a one-way operation. So it's kind of like, and they call it a hash because it's like potatoes. Like you have a potato and you cut up the potato, now you have hash. You can never take that hash and put it back as a potato. And it's the same concept here with the code. I take this passphrase, it may say Loki, and I get the SHA, and now it's ABCD 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No matter what I do, I can't take that and get Loki back out of it. So it's safe to use SHAs here and hashes here to create this as kind of like a way of comparing passwords. This is how a lot of password systems work, where they will create and store the hash because the hash can't be reversed. And then whenever you input your password, it will hash it for you, and then it compares the hashes because they always get the same result every time. So the only way to get it is to guess the password. It's a really cool little functionality of cryptography. A fun subject. I love cryptography. I don't think I will ever be smart enough to do the math that was required for it. So let's go ahead and get the ciphertext. We're going to say cryptoutils.encrypt. Apparently I can't spell or type today. Go away. I don't want to see you there. And now we need our thing. So I didn't go over this. As you see, the way that we access the data out of our secret that was put in, is it's accessed like it's a normal class, secret.passphrase. So it's like we have a class here, and now we can just access it. So like the secret data comes in here and gets stored into the secret object. This is a class object now, and then we can just access all the variables from it, just like you would a normal class. So for this, we're going to say secret.passphrase, and then secret.message. So this is the data that we're going to send, that we make into ciphertext. So we're going to make the ciphertext using our passphrase and a message. So then let's go ahead and put this into, store this in Redis. So r.setExpire ID, comma. So we want to set the ID of the UUID so we can look it up. This is how we're going to look up stuff from it. Then we're going to say time delta equals seconds dot secret seconds equal secret dot expire seconds. So what this does is this reads the expire seconds. If we don't send one in, it's going to default to an hour. So for our API, every secret that is put here will automatically expire in an hour. So if you don't get to it in an hour, it goes away. But if you set it for longer or shorter, you can. If you were ever going to run this in production, it might be a good idea to like set a min and max limit to make sure that people can't go negative, which would be, yeah, you want to make sure that can't happen. So it'll expire after that time, and then now we need the value. And we're just going to do an F string here, and we're going to say SHA/new line ciphertext. So is that it? I didn't want it to go. I'm going to bring it back down here like this. I want you all to be able to see it. Okay, so we have that. Looks kind of nasty. So we're going to basically store the SHA and the ciphertext in one thing, and then when we get it out, we're going to split it on new line. Since Redis is a key value store, we could have like maybe put like a dictionary in here or something. That makes it a little bit more complex just by giving it a single delimiter, because the new line character is not going to show up in either the ciphertext or the SHA. I believe pretty positive, 99% positive. We can just use that, and then when we want to get it out, we can just split on it, and then we have our data. It makes life a little bit easier. Don't have to worry about storing complex data. Then we're going to say return success, and we're just going to say true. You can return whatever you want here. You don't even have to return success true. I just did it out of nicety. So then we're going to say ID equals ID. Okay, now that goes like that. And we have a create secret thing now. So let's test it. This is app.post secret. So we're going to do HTTP post. And then let's say the secrets are, it's localhost colon 8000/secrets. We need to set our message equals hello there. And our passphrase is set to, we'll set it to Loki again. I don't have it running. If you don't turn on your web server, it doesn't work. Okay, so it's running now. Oh, we got an internal server error. Where did we make a mistake? It says descriptor encode for string objects, not none type. Ooh, boy. Do I have encode in here? Oh, I don't have encode here. Is it in my crypto utils file? Let's see where it's upset at. Crypto utils init pi line 23. Oh, I did it again. So one of the things that you do have to have, I always forget this. Oh, there's actually 2 environment variables that I forgot to set. So let's stop this and let's go back and talk about it. So I always forget this part. So we have to set a salt. For those of you that don't know, a salt is used basically for, it's basically like a pre-seeded random. Essentially, like you can randomly generate it, but it's something that you keep secret, and it helps the encryption algorithm. So basically, a salt is used as like the where it starts from. One second, I'll answer the questions in a second. So we have to set a salt. This is just something that's used in crypto algorithms. It's kind of like you can kind of think of it as a pre-seed. So we didn't set that, and then the other thing we didn't set is because I'm using my local Redis. SSL doesn't work because it's on my local machine. Like if I was running this in a managed Redis instance like DigitalOcean has, like whenever I run this on DigitalOcean's app platform, I usually spin up a managed Redis database and I do that. But because I'm doing it here, I don't want SSL on. One, because it's local. Two, because it's not set up and it just explodes and doesn't work. So we're going to set Redis SSL default. So I forgot to set those. That was my bad. I have a couple questions. Integrate black for better formatting. Black is already integrated here. So this is like if I come here and do like, if I were to, it automatically does that. So if I just do this, that's what black is saying is acceptable. So do we need to specify the secret parameter in the decorator? No, because this is a post. If we were doing a get and we wanted to like actually get the data out, should we do it? Yes, but since this is a post and we're just going to send JSON data to it and we know that that's where it's going to come from, then we're good. Like it's really cool how FastAPI just figures it out. If it doesn't see anything here that matches up with one of the variables here, it just assumes it's a post variable. It's really, yeah, I guess, actually, no, I think that it also thinks that because it's a class, it assumes that it's a post variable too. And because it's a .post, not a .get. There's probably a lot of things in here. It just kind of knows, and I love that. It's very intuitive. Yes, so we're going to do here is we have that running now, so let's go ahead and run it because I forgot to set my stuff. So now this should work. Okay, so ID is that, and the success is true. We have data in our database now. So we have it there. We have it there, and we have our ID, and this is our UUID, and then the success is true. So we have our create secrets. Now we need to write a get secrets. Cool. So someone asks, how is FastAPI different from Flask? What's the advantage of Flask? FastAPI is faster than Flask. It's an extremely fast API built on top of Pydantic, which is a typing hint thing, but it's on rivaled speeds with Node.js and Go. So one of the primary reasons of using FastAPI is because you want like a much faster framework. It's very minimal like Flask, as you can see. Instead of doing like .route, we're doing .post here. They're both great. I'm really falling in love with this because of just the features it has. It also has the auto docs, which we'll go again over later once we've set everything up. But yeah, and yes, this stream will be available as soon as I'm done talking on it. It will be available on YouTube. You can watch it forever. So if you need to go to bed or if you're busy, you can always come back and watch it again later. Great. Thanks for bringing in the questions. I love answering questions live. So if you have the questions, bring them because I will happily talk about whatever. I might go on and then have to come back to them, but I will always respond to them. So the next thing we need to do is we need to create a read secret thing. So read secret ID is going to be a string. And now this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So now we have to discuss some stuff. So passphrase, how do we want to do this? If we do it as a string, then this will come in as a query parameter. So app.post /secrets/secret ID. So we're going to want to get, we're basically going to do a post here. Well, we could do a get. Let's talk about that. We could do a get. It's totally valid. We could do the passphrase string here. And what would end up happening is we would have to pass our passphrase as in plain text as a query parameter. I'm a little uncomfortable with that because people, when they create passphrases, are not known for creating multiple passphrases. Like you'll probably use the same passphrase. Like how many of you have duplicate passwords across accounts? Okay. And the likelihood is you might create a new one here, but some people might not. And that's a little bit worrisome because now that passphrase is being sent across the open internet. So now it can be, even if it's an HTTPS, it's in the URL parameter now. So if at the very least, it's saved in your browser. And I know that some people just use that. Like if they were sending this to everybody, they might just use the same passphrase over and over again. That it's probably not, it's probably not that big of a deal. But the ex-security worker, the ex-person who used to work at a cybersecurity company, this raises a tiny red flag, and I don't like it. So what we do instead, it's a little, I'm not going to say it's messier. I wish there was a better way of doing it, but we kind of have to do it. So we're going to do a post, and instead of saying a passphrase, we're actually just going to create a passphrase class just for this method. So what we do with that is let's just create a class passphrase, base model, and then we're just going to say passphrase : str. Now, could we use this passphrase class inside of our secret class? Maybe. I haven't tried it. It would be interesting to try. For this demo, I haven't done it yet. If there was more stuff to the passphrase, I might be inclined to do it. If there was like more data than nesting the classes, it might be a good idea. I haven't tried it. However, just for the personal way that I feel about security and stuff, I want to send it as a post, so that way it's at least a little bit more secure than it being directly in your URL. So we're going to send it as a post. We're going to create a single class that just accepts passphrase. It's a little wonky, but it's going to work, and it's going to work beautifully. And now I don't have to worry about validating that it is, in fact, like a string and stuff. Like, it works really well for it. So let's go ahead and get it. So we have our secret ID. So the first thing we need to do is we need to data equals r.get, so our redis.get secret ID. Remember that our secret ID is just the UUID, and when we set it up, all we did was we set as the key in our Redis database, the UUID is what points to our data. So whenever you send it in as a post, it's just going to come through. This also helps if you're doing it like via form. If you were doing it via a URL, actually the secret ID is going to come in via the URL. So it's just going to work that way for us. You got a little confused there for a second. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to say passphrase equals passphrase.passphrase. Someone says spelling mistake, but I don't see a spelling mistake. But we shall see. Ah, there it is. Passphrase, not passphrase. Okay, thank you. Do we wrap the passphrase in a class to let the FastAPI auto decode a JSON post body? It's exactly what you just said. That's exactly why we're doing it. Because I could not figure out how to get post data in here without using it as a class. Like, while trying to do all of it together, like, it needed to do it. So we're using it because I wanted to get this as a post, not to get data, and we're just going to let it do it automatically for us. So yes, it's a little bit of both. It's that I couldn't figure out how to make a post, get it to accept post data. Otherwise, the only way I could figure out how to do it easily was with this, because again, like, I'm not trying to spend, hours doing this. Creating this small, teeny tiny class to do this is trivial at the end of the day. Like, I like minimal code, but it's trivial. It's not like I had to do a giant lift and shift. I just figured it out and it worked. Yeah. Yes, I found the spelling mistake. Thank you. Then what we're going to do here is we're going to say passphrase equals passphrase.passphrase. But because we're taking it in as an object now, if we just said passphrase, it would be the object. So we've got to get the actual variable out of it now. So now that we've done that, we're going to say if data is none, there was no passphrase. If we didn't find anything with the secret ID. So if the secret ID didn't work, then basically we're just going to return an HTTP exception. And for this one, we're just going to say 404. We're going to say, hey, wasn't found. And we'll say detail equals, this is the message you can send. And I'm going to say this secret either never existed or it was already read. So basically, remember that if you read a secret once, it goes away. So if you try to read it again, you'll also fall into this section. So we need to tell them you're wrong or it's already been read. We're not going to tell them which one, because by telling them which one, it gives them a teeny tiny attack vector. But yeah, so Lokesh asks, creating a class for every body payload, are we not reinvalidating the serializer class? And you kind of, a little bit kind of are, but this is a lot less code. This is a lot less code, and it does type checking. It does type checking, auto conversions for us. It does kind of create a serializer, and you only have to do it if you wanted to accept post data. So if you didn't want to accept post data, you just want to get data or anything like that, you wouldn't need to create a class. So it kind of is reinventing the serializer concept in DRF. This is a lot less code, and you get a lot more out of it, in my opinion. So instead of just, having to create it, and then I have to write all of them down, and I have to say, which ones do I want to exclude, require args, optional, like, do I want to make it optional or not? It's just a lot easier to do this. So don't get me wrong, I still love Django REST framework. If I could take this exact model and put it in Django, so I have the Django ORM with this, that would be my perfect favorite Python web framework of all time, because this does everything that I wanted to do, except it doesn't have like the Django ORM, which I'm a really big fan of. Okay, so if the data is none, then we're going to say, hey, you didn't get anything. If the data was read, then we are going to say r.delete secret ID. Because we've read the data, we immediately know that because we've read this data and it's a one-time read, get it out of here. Now, if you wanted this to be able to be read multiple times for a certain period of time, so maybe you want anybody to be able to read this, but only for an hour, you would just delete this line and you could keep it in there. And then eventually the set expiration seconds will delete it for you. But because we want this to be a one-time read, we're going to delete it from the Redis database. Then we're just going to say plain text equals crypto utils.decrypt passphrase ciphertext. And then we're just going to return, hopefully success, true. Again, you don't have to put the success true there. It's just something that I do. Message, and then we'll just say plain text. And then if we come over here, we have this now. So let's copy this. I think the passphrase was Loki. So HTTP post local host /8000/secrets/secrets ID. We're going to say passphrase equals Loki. Oh, we got an internal server error. What did I do? Ciphertext is not defined. I skipped a whole section of my code. Oops. Okay, sorry. I'm reading off this and I skipped a whole section. So sorry. The next thing we need to do after this data is done is we need to actually decode the data because the data comes in as bytes. So data.decode UTF-8-8. It happens. Sometimes it happens. But at least we already have the HTTP request ready. So we're good. So we're going to say data.decode UTF-8 to convert it into a string. Let's say the stored, that did feel really weird that it was that close to done. The stored SHA and the cipher text equals data.split/new line. What happens when you don't pay attention to your notes, everyone? And then what we're going to do here is we're going to say the SHA is equal to crypto utils.get SHA passphrase. So we're going to get the SHA of our passphrase, and then basically all we have to do is if stored SHA does not equal SHA, then we're going to return HTTP exception, and we're going to return the same thing. We're not going to tell them that the passphrase was wrong. That's not a good idea. Because if you're telling them that, you're telling them that there is a secret at that UID, but they just got the passphrase wrong. So would it be a little bit more helpful to the user if they knew that they got the passphrase wrong? Yes. Would it be more helpful to the user, to the hacker, if they knew that there was a secret piece of data behind that? Also, yes. So we're not going to tell them that that's the case. We're just going to say, hey, don't do it. So if the SHA is the same, that means that they have, and also if you misspell ciphertext, man, my typing today. Ciphertext, and now, ooh, we're getting a 404 on it. So cool. So we know that that part works. We're getting, now the question is, where are we getting this 404? That's the ticket. We'll check this in a second. I don't even think I have a question. Yeah. So the question in here says we need to tell two different messages. I just explained that, but yeah, not going to tell two different messages because it helps the hacker. You could tell different messages, but then you're telling the hacker, hey, something does exist here. I don't think that's a good idea. Totally up to you though. I'm going to put this code on GitHub. You can take it. Do with what you want. Okay. Where did we get a mistake? Ah, you're right. The first run deleted the secret and hit the error of the line after. You're right. That's exactly what happened. The secret didn't wither away yet. We're going to get there. So let's do it again. Hello, post, hello there, passphrase Loki. Okay, so we have a new one. Yes, that is one of the fun things about this is that you can't accidentally deal with that, and then it just goes away, and you delete it. So, and then we have our message. So we got encrypted and decrypted and came out. Now, what we can do is we can race against time here. Expire seconds equals, we'll say 15 seconds. Let's give it 15 seconds for the expiration. It's true, okay? I'm going to intentionally let these 15 seconds expire so you can see that after a certain amount of time, this passphrase is used, like it goes away. The thing is automatically deleted from the Redis database. I don't think I did that in 15 seconds, but I'm going to wait a couple more seconds just to give it the hint. Where's my little timer? Do I have a little timer? I don't have a timer. I think that should be 15 seconds. The secret is gone. So when we set the secrets to 15 seconds, it withered away. Now, what happens if I accidentally try to post something without a passphrase? Let's just say hello message. We get this 422 unprocessable entity, and it tells us the body passphrase. So we're missing the passphrase. It's a required value, and there's a value error. Can we do? I don't know, let's try it. Let's see if we can do a get. The reason, again, that I'm not doing get is because I want to send JSON data via that, but we could do a get. Let's see. Can you say, maybe, let's try it. See what happens. If it breaks, it breaks. So let's set another one, but let's not set it to 15 seconds. So hello there. Let's try it. We're going to try a get and try to send post data with it, or HTTP data with it. I don't think it's going to work, but we shall see. Secrets, that, and then we do passphrase equals Loki. Method not allowed, so we can't do that. So we're good. The reason that we're not doing it as a get and we're doing it as a post is because it's likely that this will come in from a form. So one, we want to accept JSON. So yeah, get doesn't support request bodies, so we can't do it. And we don't want to do a get because it's not good for us to leave a passphrase in a URL. So while this is where I finally get to do it. I get to talk about it. And I wasn't even planning on talking about it, but we're going to talk about it. So here it is. Open image in new tab. Oh, it's so tiny. I need the big image. Come here. Come on. Open image in new tab. Yeah, it's a little bit pixelated, but we'll talk about it. The Zen of Python. This is one of my favorite things. If you've never seen the Zen of Python, it is basically the way of this is like the rules that that Python kind of goes by. And where is it at? I'm looking for a specific one. Number 9, although practicality, so special cases aren't special enough to break the rules, although practicality beats purity. So a pure REST APIist would definitely say, hey, this should be, you're getting something, this should be a, man, my brain is not working. This should be a get method. However, that is not what we want. We want to be able to protect our data. We want to be able to send a request body. We want it to be able to be submittable by a form. So therefore we use post for it. So it's a great question. Yes, it could be a get and it could be REST principles, but practicality beats purity. And in this case, the practicality of not leaking a passphrase via a request URL, whether it's saved in the browser or anything, is more important in my mind than making sure that it is up to the purest of REST API principles. So it's totally up to you. But this is all of the code that I write, very much I follow a lot of this Zen. I think that this is not just like the Zen of Python. This is the Zen of just programming. It's a great way of writing your code. If you haven't looked into it, you basically just go to your Python interpreter and type import this and you'll get it. I could do a whole talk just on this, but we're not going to. So that is pretty much, last thing I want to show. Docs. So now we have our secrets. Oh, we want to change that back to a post because that needs to be a post. Post. Refresh. And now we're back to a post. And as you can see, we get our secret ID. We could even just try it out. It's really awesome. I just love this. This is one of my favorite things. So we're going to say message is tech talks are cool. And the passphrase is Sammy. It's going to expire in 3,600 seconds. We get this ID. So then, actually, I don't know if we would even be if this post here, if we'd have to. Okay, so we'd have to do like secret ID there, and the passphrase was Sammy, and we execute it. And tech talks are cool as the message comes through. I love it. It's so cool. You definitely probably want to look into securing this to make sure if you are doing a secure thing. But it is 11 o'clock. That is all the time I have for today. If there's any other questions or anything, really quickly, I will upload this to GitHub. So that way, and I will give you the repo as soon as I can. So we're going to call this Tech Talk One-Time Secret. We'll say Python code for one-time secret app demoed in FastAPI Tech Talk. And then we're going to go to public. Then we're going to click create repository. So someone asks, what about deployment? So that segues in perfectly to my next thing. My next Tech Talk, which will be May 26th, I believe, end of May. I'm going to be so we've done a whole series on Python, and like different Python frameworks and everything. I'm going to do an entire talk on just how to deploy Python apps. So it's going to be all of them. So we're going to talk about deploying Flask apps, deploying Django apps, deploying FastAPI apps, but we're also going to talk about sorry, I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. Sometimes it's a little bit hard. But we're also going to talk about not only how do we deploy them on a droplet, like on a DigitalOcean virtual private server. How are we going to deploy them on as a container? We're going to containerize these applications. How are we going to deploy them on DigitalOcean's app platform? So we've kind of been building up. We've done 4 Python tech talks, and then we're going to do a deployment talk where we're just going to talk about deployment and all the things that can happen with Python deployments. So are we going to talk about distributing Python apps to the end user GUI apps? I might not, but I'm going to tell the magic voice in the sky to log that, because I might have someone. I can't really speak about that, but I know someone who builds a Python game engine called PPB who talks just about this and has given talks about this, and maybe we could have a guest, and it would be a good idea. And it's a guest that my coworker already knows, because this person spoke at Deploy last year and was really well liked by a lot of our team. So I can't talk about that because I've never done any work around distributing Python apps to the end user, as a single binary. But there's a thing called Briefcase that is going to use, and I can totally see if I can get this person to do a tech talk for us. I can't make any promises because they might be super. But we can definitely talk about it. So it'll give me 1 second to add and get all of this done so I can get you all the link to the thing, to the GitHub repo. So if you want to play with this code, you can play with this code. And I didn't exit. rm-rf this VS Code. You don't need to see my VS Code settings. There's nothing interesting in there anyway. If it is, it's useless. So okay, get branch -m main get remote at origin HTTPS. I don't want the HTTPS one. I want the SSH one. Come on, brain. Get at github.com/Mason Egger /tech-talk-ots.get get push-u origin main. And if I refresh that page, it is here. Awesome. So we will put this here. This is the code for the FastAPI talk. Oh, I'm going to. Oh, I am also going to do a pip freeze here for a second. Pip freeze requirements.txt. So if you did want to deploy this to DigitalOcean's app platform, you now could do it. The only things that you would need to do, and I'll add a README to this whenever I'm done, is to add yourself my goodness, my brain. You need to add the environment variable. So the salt variable and the and the SSL variable. However, if you are going to connect it to Redis, you will have to stand up a managed Redis database. You'll need an external Redis to point to. But yeah, go ahead. Feel free to play with this code. If you don't have Redis installed, it's relatively straightforward to install and getting it running on your device. So yeah, that's all I have for today on FastAPI. Thank you for joining me. I don't see any more questions, so we're going to go ahead and go. Feel free to tweet me at Mason Egger if you have any questions, and I'll happily let you know. Follow me on Twitter if you want to learn more about my tech talks. We have cloud chats coming up tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern on the YouTube channel. If you haven't seen our show yet, you should definitely come and see our weekly cloud show where we talk about all things in tech. It's myself. If you also watch our tech talks, Chris Sev also does them, Matt, IPv4. There's a lot of really cool people there, so you should definitely show up for that. Thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow at Cloud Chats. If not, I'll see you on May 26th for deploying your Python app. Have a good day.